Okay, hi folks. Starting a couple minutes early today. I hope everybody's having a good day. We've got some people that'll be joining us soon at 2 o'clock, and when they do so, we're going to talk a little bit about creativity as we get along doing our normal thing. But I thought I'd just pop in here a couple minutes early so that, I can show you where we're at with the zines. I'm going to do another one today. My initial intention was to do it digitally, but I'm going to try something a little bit different. So Zine Week, I guess is what this is called. Today's the fifth one this week of the Zine Swap project, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up for people to post something this weekend that discusses two ideas. One of which is the idea of voting on which zine I throw into the zine swap of the zines that we've done this week, and the other is that anybody that's bought a copy of One Page Story Extravaganza from the Amazon website, and the link is down below, and takes up a pic holding up the book that they bought, and send me a DM with that and your mailing information, and I will mail you one of the zines that we've had done. And at this point, as of the end of today, there'll be 9 different ones that we've done, and so I'll be mailing those out to folks with a little drawing as well, so that it's an appreciation or a thank you to the people that have bought copies of One Page Story Extravaganza. I'm very appreciative of it, and I'm very much appreciative of the fact that people have been writing these lovely reviews on the Amazon site, and then giving giving reviews as well without adding the textual part of it. Very much appreciative of it. I can't express enough how much that touches my heart. So this week, I got a sneak peek up for you right now, and that sneak peek is the one that I'll be posting tomorrow. But this week, we started Monday doing a ballpoint piece. Tuesday, I think. No, what day is it? It's Friday, yeah, 5th piece. Monday, we did the ballpoint piece. Tuesday, we did the... this is... Brer off. I initially said it was a jelly plate. It is a little bit of jelly plating on it, but it's primarily Brer off, which is rolling acrylic paint onto a paper surface and then working on top of that. This is pencil, white and HB on craft paper, brown craft paper, and then the one that I'll be posting tomorrow is working on a jelly-plated surface. And so each of these pages, when I've posted them and put them on, onto Patreon, I also post the original art unencumbered by text or manipulation, and I also post them for the zine format so that you can print them off and fold your own. So, and then the one I intended for doing today initially was this one. I was going to do digital over top of a scanned collage piece, but we're going to try something else different today. I can see people are joining in already. Hi, welcome aboard everybody new, and everybody that are, tuning in as regular. I hope everybody's having a great day. It's very nice of everybody to come in and join us. So what I've been talking about is working from prompts all week. So there's 3 words for each of these pages that I'm showcasing right now. And one of the things that I do on a regular basis is that people suggest an idea, or people suggest a few words, or a piece of dialogue, or just an idea in general, like just some random statement. And I will make a one-page story from that each day. And so last year we did 365. This year I am cresting 200 already. Just very productive year. So Mondays was ballpoint pen. The suggestion for this is broom, mirror, and paint. So that's number one. Number two is this is a mixed media piece on acrylic paint, and the suggestion for this was the painter Surratt, octopus, and any letter. So I chose B because bubbles starts with B, and bubbles is in the piece. The third one was pink, cave, and gothic, and so I went with the singer Pink, the singer Nick Cave, and gothic stuff like Rocky Horror Picture Show. So today's page or yesterday's page I started and finished off is fly, donuts, and ship. And so this was mixed media on jelly plated paper, and that's through the jelly plating process that I'm sure if anybody's interested we can find out about. So the next thing that I'll be doing is digital drawing on a collage surface. But today we're going to do something different. So I'll have this done for the weekend. But hi to everybody that's joined in and I'm missing. But what I was thinking of showing you is I know specifically for Chris's students that you've got a piece of paper with a scribble on it. And we're going to walk through that in a second. So this is the different zines that I've done. 1, 2, 3, 4 are from this week. And the previous 4 are from last year. And so what these are, it's a single sheet of paper that when folded up turns into a little book. And so that's what each of these are, and each of the things that I've shown you as well. And so that's what all of these different pieces contain within them. There's self-portrait. Hello. And it's all different medium and all different approaches that I take, and every one of these is done from 3 separate words. So, hi Marsh. So I try to do different things every time. I try not to be static in the approaches that I take to working on stuff. This is how it originally starts. It's just a sheet of 8.5 by 11, and I have to draw it. So it's in this format. Cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the back cover. And so that's the same for each one on each different surface with each different collection of mark making tools we'll use. This one's upside down, right? And trying different things and taking different approaches to creativity allows us to explore different forms of expression and different ways in which we can play. You know, it's all about playing. Creativity is just generally about playing. And so this is just the proof. That's why it's got the gray band on it. But this is a book that I put out this year, and all of the stuff that's within it are examples of where somebody suggests an idea. I write down what I'm thinking when I'm working on it. I show a scan of the original art, and then there's that finished page. And so I do that for every different suggestion and every different stylistic approach and mediums that I use for each of the pages. And this is what I do on the regular. This is what I do Monday through Friday. And it keeps my approaches to things fresh. It makes me think outside of the box and try different things and try different forms of communicating ideas to other people, incorporating visual and textual elements. And this is a universal idea, the idea of communication being something that all of us feel important to us. We want other people to hear us and to understand what it is that we're trying to say to them, what ideas we're trying to convey. And sometimes we're shy, and sometimes people don't feel comfortable speaking with others. But there's always alternative methods, whether it's expressing themselves through poetry or writing or music or visual imagery. This sort of fuses some of those aspects together by using words and pictures at the same time, but you get to express some of these notions or make fun jokes or fun assertions, or even just explore an idea. Like the suggestion for this one's one panel, one image, one word. And I came up with run because, it's a sort of active word, very active word. And it makes people think about, when you look at the visual image of all these people running in different directions, it just says run above it. Why are they running? Where are they running to? It sort of asks the viewer questions, and that's what we want, is a dialogue between ourselves and the people that are engaging in the things that we create or we express. When you talk to other people, you're trying to bridge a connection between other people in your communication. This is the same thing. Marsh asks, do I ever approach the day with something I already have in mind that I want to try? No. I don't. Every time I open up the book, this is my magic shiny book that is full of nothing but ideas that people suggest to me, suggestions, words, whatever it is. Here is the week's worth of 3-word suggestions that I've been doing here. And I open the book and pick something, and there we go. And often I look around me and see what I have nearby. I grab that and I use some of that. There's no pre-thinking or pre-preparing for it, because you lose some of the energy of creativity when you do that, when you overthink stuff, when you're relaying it all. At least this is it for me. I don't know how it works for other people. I'm sure it's very different for every individual, but for me, I'm on the fly. It's kind of like jazz. You're in the moment and playing the music, or in this case, writing and illustrating a story. Evan Jen says, how do you deal with creative block? I don't have creative block. I know that sounds pretentious. I can't think of another word. But I don't, because I always feel like there's always something else to try. And when I'm sitting in a place, while I might not have a specific idea to work from, when I might not have some great notion of a thing I need to say, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to sketch whatever's around me. And my sketchbooks look like this. So, I draw anything and everything around me, and whatever comes to mind. So, creative block, I think, is something that, yes, people feel they're perplexed by, but I think maybe because we're isolating what it is that we're looking for. You're trying to have a thing that you're drawing. You're trying to find some expression, some specific notion to come to you. Expression is just expression. It doesn't have to have a deeper meaning, and it doesn't have to have a grand objective. It can just be, I'm doodling today, or I'm scribbling on paper. You mean to ask, how do you deal with creative block when you find yourself in an uninspired streak? Again, I don't. And I know that sounds really easy to say. And the suggestions always help, sure. But I have, since 2015, I have written and illustrated 30 books. And they are just chock full of whatever medium or whatever stylistic approach or story idea I feel like doing at the time. I have a question. What is your concept of creativity? Expression. Expression. As simple as that. Creativity, whether it's dance, whether it's building a thing, it's imagining something up, writing, if it's designing a building, if it's some act of expression, some aspect of taking what's inside yourself and bringing it forward to others. Even if it's just telling a story verbally, that is creativity. I mean, there's creativity in so many different things. None of the objects that you see in the space around you would exist if it wasn't some creative undertaking that someone had to design a chair you might be sitting on, to design the window you might be looking out of. Somebody sat down for a moment and put that together. And, those are all simple things. Do you believe that boredom can stimulate creativity? I think that it's important that you let your mind wander. I think it's important that you allow yourself to daydream. I think it's important that you allow yourself, not during class, of course, but I think it's important that you allow yourself a moment to close your eyes and to think of something. Doesn't matter how simple it is, how mundane it might be. I think it's very important that you close your eyes, think of the chair you might be sitting on. Think of how it's made. Think of what, the lines are, the shapes are of the chair, the strength of the chair, the flexibility of the chair. Something as simple as that. It's when other people would look at that as a very boring notion. But now your imagination's cooking. Now you got that creativity engine stoked, and you're looking for all kinds of ways to get it out. And however that comes out, it's going to be a creative endeavor. How do you stay inspired and motivated to create new work? So I will admit that there is something different about some people, well, there's something different about all people, but there is something different about people like me that it's just part of who we are. I'm not going to make any claim for anything special. It's just I feel compelled to draw and to paint and to do, play music and do all kinds of other things. Sing along with the radio, because it's just a part of me. It's very integral to me. It's the same as other people have a natural knack for swimming and really enjoy being in the water. They do laps every morning. It's no different than that. People have a sort of part of themselves that's, the word would be compelled to do something. And for me, that's to creatively express myself in some way, shape, or form. And to encourage and to promote that to others to do the same, because I believe strongly that you get a return from that. You can have all kinds of anxiety and all kinds of stress and pressure on you, but when you sit down and you just allow yourself to wander and to scribble on a piece of paper, or to just dream up some music, write down some lyrics, to just sway around in your vehicle, as you're listening to the radio and you're driving on a boring stretch of road, to just bop your head as you're listening to whatever it is, and allow yourself, engage in that. Let's see, where are we at? How do you differentiate a good from a bad idea? No such thing as a bad idea. What we do with an idea is simply an idea. There is all kinds of terrible things that have been done from ideas, yes, and terrible acts against one another that have been done from ideas. But an idea is simply that. It's not good or bad. It's what we make from it. It's how we look at it. Somebody can have a really terrible idea, a really terrible statement that is maybe even oppressive and hurtful to the world or others around them. But if we look at that idea in a structured way, like a positive way of how can we assess this idea so that, we either eliminate it or we change, what the outcome of it could possibly be, that idea can turn into something of a good. But there's no such thing as a bad idea. It's just an idea, whether it comes or goes. Sometimes if we look at it differently, a coin is just a coin. It's got two sides to it. Flip the coin over, flip the idea over. What inspired you to start creating art? I believe my mother thinks that I've been doing it since I was a baby, wrecking the wallpaper beside my crib. I don't know if that's art, but what I do know is at the moment that I was a small child and I was given crayons, I was drawing whatever. And no matter what I've done in the course of my life, in different jobs that I've had, I still doodle. I still create things at night and do large paintings and drawings and illustrate books and all kinds of stuff through the course of my life, as well as, I play music and so forth. It's good to turn off the noise and be silent. Some of my best ideas come that way. That's completely true. allow yourself to daydream, allow yourself to just close your eyes and tune out a little bit from the world around you. If a dark room helps, whatever it is, then do it. But just allow yourself to just take whatever might be inside your head and figure out a way to get it out. Let's see. Thomas says, which things do you use, or with which people do you talk when you do not have inspiration, and how do you find it? I think that everything that we do, everything we engage with in our lives is an opportunity for us to find something to explore further. Every conversation that you have, every interaction with other people, every creatively produced item or artwork or whatever it is by other people, you can look at and see something inside that speaks to you. Some things you look at and I just don't like that. That's fine. Why don't you like it? And what does that say about, what its potential could be? How did I come to have that drawing style? It's your style of art is going to pick up and develop over the course of practice and repetition. The more that you do a thing, the more specifically stylized that thing comes. The fact that, where did I put them? The fact that in this book and in these zines alone, there's all these different materials and all these different approaches to story. And the fact that, I'm multidisciplinary and that I'll draw digitally, I'll draw traditionally, I'll draw any items that are suggested to work from, and it's still, there's still an underlying style. There's still a thing I think that you can find in there that it's how I approach work, but it's how I draw people's faces or whatever. But it just came along from repetition and practice. I'm gonna do something wacky for a second. I'll keep on with the questions, but I'm gonna do something wacky. So I know this for a fact that Chris, your students have been given a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper is this. Okay, it's just a scribbly shape. Now this page here. On this page, if you take let me see if I can zoom it in. So if you take a look, you'll see that I've done the same thing with a pen on this piece of paper. And despite that mark being on there, I'm going to draw whatever on top of it. The marking on a piece of paper doesn't matter to me. I'll put tape on paper like this. I'll take a piece of masking tape. And let's see if I can find the end of this. There we go. Let's see what else am I. So I'll take this and I'll put it on there, like so. And for me, this is it's still just the piece of paper. But sometimes doing something silly like that allows you to say, well, I can't make a mess of this. I've already got this stuff going on top of it. Let's draw, and whatever it helps you to do to sort of break away from worrying too much about whatever your project is. I don't want to wreck this perfect piece of paper. Well, technically, I already have. By putting all these marks down on this, I've made a mess of this piece of paper. I've got masking tape on here. Well, there's masking tape right here in this image and throughout here. But it doesn't change how I draw on top of it. So work on whatever, find whatever means you can to get into whatever it is that you're going to try to do. My intention today for the one-page story that I'm going to do today is going to be to draw one long image that connects through the entire flipbook. And so to do that, I'll be drawing all kinds of little elements. Like even though I've got this stuff here, I'm going to draw directly on top of it and draw images that aren't concerned about the scribbles that are over top. Let's see, where are we now? How did you come to have that drawing style? We got that. Do you still have your first sketch, and can you show us? No, I'm old. That sketch would be very old. As we grow up, we don't always hold on to the stuff that we have. It's just simply how it is. And I mean, my children are adults now, so no, I don't have the drawings that I did as a little boy. I know some people hold on to those things. I have not, and a lot of the early works a lot of works throughout the course of my life have been very fortunate to have sold as well. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to enter the art world? Just do it. Just start creatively expressing yourself. That's it, and work on the work in and of itself. Don't be too caught up in concern about, is this cool? Is this what's going to be hot and trendy? Is this going to be the thing that makes lots of dollars and makes me famous? That's not what's important. What's important is you're looking inside yourself and you're finding these creative means to express yourself. And when you get into the flow of that, the practice of that, and expressing those things, and doing this as though it comes natural, and you're not worried about things like block or anything like that, you are just creating and making. And eventually, that art world can't help but recognize that you're there. Is it going to work out, make you millions of dollars? I don't know. There's no guarantees on anything. What advice would you give someone who's still trying to find their own art style? Repetition, practice, keep going for it. Like just whatever you're doing, keep doing it on a regular basis. I'm going to zoom in while I draw so you can see a little clearer what it is that I'm doing. Okay. Who are my biggest artistic influences, and how have they shaped my work? So a lot of my influences come from when I was a young man, which was a while ago. And it doesn't mean to say that there aren't people that I see regularly, even today, that I don't look at their stuff and it has some impact on me. And even stuff that I saw when I was younger that I might not have considered to be influential, sometimes the things that we see that we don't like has an impact on us. Have you ever put yourself into the same feeling over and over in order to draw more? Do you mean, do I repeat drawings? Or is that, do I find that I need a process in order to draw? Because I tend to just go on to the next thing and go on to the next thing. I have illustrated series of books, so that, like, I have one series called Elmwood that is 11 books long. And yet, despite that, I'm going to need to go back and finish that 12th book someday. And, but when it comes to, do I have to have a sort of feeling or a mood when I'm working? Nope. I carry sketchbooks all the time on me and draw and whatever tools I bring, whether they're markers or paint markers or whatever it is, and I make a mess wherever I go. What's inspired you to start writing books in addition creating visual art? When I was a child, I enjoyed comic books. And as I grew older and read, a lot of classic literature, I'm English speaking, so I'm talking about an awful lot of English speaking books, but, in amongst those, there's international pieces as well. Count of Monte Cristo. For heaven's sakes, what is the one where they're the windmill tilter? For heaven's sakes, I forgot the title. But there's translated pieces that I'll read from other languages, and I read a lot, and so as I grew older, less was I interested in these sort of child influenced pieces of superheroes and funny animal books, and more was I interested in telling real stories of real people. So over time, my style specifically changed so that it was less about drawing, the things that are traditional in the Western market for comics, and more international. So in Europe and in Asia, they'll do comic books or sequential art books on anything. There'll be an entire manga series on cooking or tennis, and in Europe there's all kinds of grand ideas that are explored, sci-fi and gothic horror and fantasy, and just traditional rite of life stuff. I tend to like story in general, and I don't really isolate myself into a specific style or a specific kind of story that I'm trying to tell. I just draw, and whatever comes together from that, whether it's with an idea in mind or just drawing to draw, I let it go, and I just pursue. And when I say I let it go, I start working, and I don't concern myself too much about it. And I'm just pursuing the act of drawing in and of itself, and we'll see what comes together from there. Could I share a special moment when I realized that I was an artist? When I was a teenager, I applied for a special program in the high school that I went to that just taught art all day at high school. And I'd finished most of my studies for most of my education, and I had a number of credits to still finish before I could graduate. And I elected for the last year to study art. And so I submitted a number of my drawings, and the art teachers looked at them and said, "Welcome aboard. Come on in. Let's teach you how to draw better, and let's teach you how to look at the world differently, and to try to figure out better ways to interpret the drawings from the ideas that you have in your head." What feelings do I have when I draw? Every feeling under the sun. Here's a funny game. When you watch a person drawing a face, an expressive face, like let's say the person that's drawing, and I'm going to switch the camera for just a second. So let's say the person that's drawing is drawing a character, and they're going, like they're making a goofy face, or they're really mad, as the face that you're drawing is. Watch the person drawing it, because sometimes you see this when they're like making this grumpy, squinched up face, because it helps that person to think about the face they're drawing. It's a funny game, but you tend to have lots of different emotions. You can get frustrated. You can be very happy by a drawing. You can be very disappointed it is not working out the way you want, but just keep trying. What themes or messages do you hope to convey through your comics? It depends on the piece. Depends on the story. Half of my things are silly. Half of my things are me thinking about something and trying to express my thought on it. So they tend to be very whimsical in the moment, like from one direction to another. How do you approach the creation of characters and the construction of their stories and personalities? Allow yourself, don't try to dictate the story. Let the story dictate itself to you. And what I mean by that is, when you start with a piece, like in the zines that I've been doing this week, this piece is about a person talking about postmodernist art, postmodernist deconstructivism. And this is a fly accounting a narrative about how he came across a spaceship hiding in a box of donuts. They got into a laser fight, and he blew it up, and he saved the world. You're welcome. No charge. These are very different kinds of stories. Allow the story to lead you, right? And if it's serious today, that's what you're feeling like. You're feeling serious today. If it's not serious today, be funny. Be silly. Enjoy it. Embrace it. Do you have any exciting projects or collaborations you're currently working on? I have 5 books in the work. I have 5 separate projects in the work right now. I have 1-page story extravaganza number 2, the same as this one, but the second volume coming out right now that I'm working on. And I also have where all the stories are similar, where they're landscape format. I have another one of these that I'm working on when they're upright format. Jessica, I thought you were coming on at 1:30. I was late. what did you miss? The secrets of the universe. just talking. So I hope that some of these looks at creativity, some of these looks at creative expression for yourself help. I hope that whatever course of action that you want to take to try to define for yourself the ways to express the ideas that you have and ways to find new means to communicate with others, allow yourself to just do it. Allow yourself to simply make mistakes, right? Just draw. If it's wrong, erase it if you have a pencil. If you didn't draw it in pencil, go with it. Get a white pen for yourself and a white marker and go over the area that was wrong and draw it over it again. There's no rules that says it has to be anything specific other than the rules you yourself put into it. We're here like 5 minutes more. We have another task to do. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for your students for joining us today. I hope that you look at this piece of paper with the scribbles on it and just allow that random image, let your mind wander, and use it as something to draw on. And because it's already got the scribbles on it, you can't make a mistake of it. You just can't. It's already got scribbles all over it. So go ahead, explore, express yourself and create, and make a mess. Make a mess, but have fun and learn something about yourself while you're doing it. Learn to trust yourself and just make marks. Susanna says, did you ever make something from a line or lines that other people draw? Every month I run a comic book jam. Somebody draws the first picture, and then you have to follow their style and their story. And so, it's right outside of your comfort zone. Do I think Canada is a good place to live for an artist? I think Canada is a great place to live. There is snow here. We have X amount of the seasons of the year that are cold. So people need to be prepared for that. Did you ever, if you don't like your drawing, you draw it many times until for you it's perfect, or do you prefer to change a drawing and do something else? I just continue on the drawing. I'm not worried about perfection. I'm a storyteller, and I'm just going to do my best to convey this story today. Now, in the future, I might try to look at that same story and say, I think I could tell that differently. Because that person in the future is not me. It's a different person from different experiences and different amounts of drawing. But today, I'm not worried about perfection. Just worry about doing something. Allowing yourself a moment for you. Because creating is a very personal thing. Even if you're engaged with others while you're doing it, it's a very personal thing. And that's okay. What's your favorite piece I've ever created and why? I don't have one. I'm always pleased with whatever the latest thing is, or I look at it and think, how could I have done that better? I generally am appreciative when a new book comes out, like this one. And where is it? There it is. Ooh, that's a good fun feeling to see your book title and your name on it as it's published. But the next thing is going to be a new thing. It's going to be a different thing. It might be a better thing. But don't be too hung up on perfection and whatever the specific piece is. And if you look at a piece you did 5 years ago and think that's the best thing you've ever done, give yourself a break. You figure out what it is that you like about that. Try to put it in whatever you're doing today. I think I've got most of our questions here. Yeah. Well, I hope that I'm just drawing a couple people wrestling. That's all I thought I'd start by drawing today. So this is what I've been scribbling in pen. And this is a nice brush tip marker. And, there we go. We're having a fun time just putting marks down. If I make a mistake, if it's the wrong mark, so be it. Thanks very much, everybody from Chris's group that have come out and attended. I hope you have a good time with your project, and thank you for joining me for a few minutes, and thanks, Chris, for the opportunity. I'm just going to keep on drawing today, and if you watch tomorrow, I'll post this finished page on Instagram and Facebook and Patreon and everything else. And I do this Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. EST. All right. Have a great day, folks. For those of you that watch the regular stream, I'm just going to keep going. This is a slight different direction than I had initially planned. I was planning on working on that collage page, but we may still yet. I want to try something different, though, with how I'm doing the zines and make it go all the way across. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everybody. Very nice. It's a fun thing to be able to chat with people, in other places, and always encourage others to create. Who knows? We could be encouraging the next great artist in the world. Wouldn't that be nice? So I've got two characters here, one grabbing the other one, and so my intention is to, I'll pull out in a second to the larger shot. There was a lot of great questions that they had, wasn't it? I'm going to pull out to the larger shot. So my intention for today's page is that when we look at the structure of the zine format, okay, and I'll hold up the examples from this week to relate this to. I've tried a couple different things I wanted to approach it with. Here is 8 panels, 8 equal panels. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all of Chris's students that are still with us that are saying thank you as they go. I appreciate that. So this is regular 8 panels, the same approach to storytelling, the same approach to drawing. You've got the same rhythm because the panels are the same size for the story, for the beats. And then I tried a couple other things. Now, this one has this broad 2-page spread in here, and yet the way I laid out the text on it divides it down, but not so formally as to say that it has that different bit of rhythm. You stay with this image longer, largely because I want to draw a big giant octopus. So the rhythm changes in this one. Now, here we are back again to the 8-panel grid, but what I did differently is a couple things here. I had this character's arm extend over into this panel to unify these 2 separate panels as one scene of the 2 of them in conversation, celebrating, getting this party started. And then I jump around a little bit spatially, and I jump around a little bit in the story in timing, because the 2 of them are looking up at this giant castle, and in the next panel they're knocking on the front door. So that's a time jump that isn't really allowed to be recognized by the rhythm of the panels. We just sort of have to hope that the reader's sophistication understands that they've moved up to the castle at this point. Jose says, what do you enjoy most about what you do? I can't complain about what I do, Jose. I just enjoy writing and illustrating and telling stories and showing other people the things I've learned about how to express myself, and to try to encourage them to find out what helps them express themselves. And if it helps to learn what I do, well, there's no big secret in what I do. I don't ever feel like I'm in a competition with others because we're all doing different things and we're all expressing ourselves in different ways. So those are some of the things I enjoy about this. So this one has the front and back cover. Now they're a uniform value system, but they're 2 separate images, and I delineate those, or I put a line in between those. But the rest of the story is 2-page spreads for these larger scenes that encapsulate a couple of ideas at once. So, he sees these guys, he knows it's a spaceship, he tells you about the flies are fighting against these invaders from another micro-universe, and they start blasting at each other, and and then he says, I must have hit something. And then basically it's summarized, or the idea is brought together at the end by saying, well, I guess I just saved the world again. You're welcome. No charge. So, silly fun just the same. And then this is, for those joining late, this is the completed page with the text and the lines put on to divide it up. And then when I fold it up into its book form, I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Like, all of them. And let me tell you, my people have a lot of eyes. So then it opens up like this. So earlier I laid my eyes on this feast. It looked like an absolute banquet. In the middle of this box of donuts, I saw it, though. Another attempt at invasion by the denizens from the micro-dimension. Huh? Isn't that elaborate? These guys are the worst for sure. So I'm writing here like I'm trying to channel the idea of a fly being this really kinetic little creature that whizzes and buzzes around. So I'm trying to write the text to be as hyperactive as a fly would be. So that's why so many words randomly running over themselves and using little expressions like, it looked like these guys are the worst for sure, or and let me tell you, my people have a lot of eyes, like all of them, like little things like that. Just try to further the idea of this really hyperactive fly. And I mean, maybe they shot first, I don't know. It all happened so fast. So this is a page I'll be posting for tomorrow. And but this is the page that we started yesterday. This is my fun blow up shot where he's flying backwards overhead, very dramatic. And then the summation is, so anyways, I figure I totally saved the world. You're welcome. No charge. Why does it say no charge? Because I thought it was funny. That's cool. I never thought to do a double page spread zine. So I've done one before. That was magical creatures. There's the opening shot of somebody holding up little piece of plant there, little cranberries or something. Dale, yep. Do you believe in Pegasus? Pegasi? What are they in plural? I'm not sure what they are in plural. So even though this is a static image, here's the conversation on this side. And I give pause for a moment on this shot of our main character, Dale, and when he says, I'm not sure what they are in plural. And that lets you sit with the drawing for a second. So you take the time to read through, and this lets you take the time to look at the picture. Ideally. Too bad they're gone. They died off in prehistory. They were hunted into extinction by vampires. So this is Dale imagining what a Pegasus looked like. And this is Dale imagining what a vampire looked like. And it's flap, flap, it says there beside the wings. Looks kind of like a bison with little baby wings. And then she thinks of what she thinks a Pegasus looked like. They were such magical creatures. The Pegasus was a beautiful horse with wings. Right? And he says, come on, they didn't exist. And there she is exposing her fangs about to jump him. Because the three words for this piece was unicorn, gardener, which is what they're doing, and Pegasus. No, hold on. No, it's Pegasus, gardener, and vampire was the suggestion. And I don't drop it on you that she's a vampire until the end. So, but this is, again, double page spreads. But trying different little aesthetic approaches. So in this case, I'm trying to have these different thought bubbles representing what each of them thinks the item they're thinking of is. Whereas in this one, it's just him recounting the crazy story as he remembered it happening, which may or may not be true. But you can do different things with different layouts of pages. And like in Beavers, I have as he's telling you something and he keeps blinking, there's a second beaver in the background that keeps interjecting. And this is a subplot that has nothing really to do with anything. So, I don't mind tooting my own horn. I had an adventure. Cup of tea? Ah, he sounds lovely. So, anywho, I saw this beautiful peach tree. I knew they grew it for me, so I took it. So this is him narrating the actions. And the other beaver comes back and goes, tea? Thank you. So what happened then? So the idea is that this beaver's been talking to the other one who's distracted by making tea. Right. And then he says, some lady chased me all the way to the river. She got me in the eye with her broom, which is why he's been blinking the entire time. I got that tree, though. That's the whole story. Just somebody just accounting something that happened in their life and putting it in a naturalist setting by having the other person offering tea. Why does that make any difference? I don't know. It's just trying to explore the moment, right? And having the second beaver in there interrupting him about tea and then going, okay, so anyways, where were you? You know, it's the idea of just how conversations work. Hey, you. So this is faded because this is my proof I print for myself and the ink was running out when I did this. Did you hear me yell, hey, you? Yeah, even an armadillo could have heard it. Oh, an armadillo, when he's imagining an armadillo. They can use hammers, you know. I saw it once. Did not. No, I totally didn't, but that'd be awesome. And the two of them enjoy a laugh. And then I cut to an ad. So I do a break from my story and say, armadillo tools for today's tradesman. And there's an armadillo and a hammer. The suggestions for this page are laughter, any tool, and armadillo. But then I have a little piece at the end where it says, maybe I saw it with a chainsaw. Armadillo mask! And he's, There's nothing added, you know, as he's deep in thought, his friend scares him wearing an armadillo mask. There's nothing added to this story by that, but it's just something I wanted to explore, to actually do a break in the middle of a story and to come back to it, you know, so... But having that armadillo tools, and the way I fold the book, it looks like it's on the back, but extra story, you know. So we can try all kinds of different ways of looking at how we can tell different types of story and how we can tell different types of approaches with this format. So what my intention here is this. So when... pull a sheet of paper from the back. So when I'm doing this one, I'm looking at the 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and we look at it a couple of different ways. If we recognize that it's 8 quadrants, okay, it's each rectangular quadrant is the same size basically. So I've tried things where I've had 2-page spreads. I've had the occasional 2-page spread in there. And if you're going to do it, try to realize where it would sit on the fold so that your 2-page spread is facing each other. Okay? So that would be like this. Or it would be like this. Or it would be like this. Okay? Etc. If you do it like this, they're going to be on the opposite sides of the piece of paper. Just how it is. Now, with experimenting with those different approaches, one of the things that I feel like I want to do at this point is to take our 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I want to tell one continuous image. Now, I'm drawing it like this because if I draw it where this is the cover and this is the back cover, do you see the problem with trying to draw it as one continuous image? It would be the cover and the back cover would be the end of the story. The cover itself would essentially be the end. It's doable, and it's something that I could explore where the first image you see is the finale, the outcome of everything else that happens. But then the art would have to go this way and this way. You know, and that's challenging, right? So I'm going to approach it like this, and the reason that I'm going to do so is because I'm going to scan it, and then I will edit it in the same way as I edit, you know, the different pages, like so. Like this is drawn uniformly. It just shows you the drawing for this, and this was flat. You know, a traditionally drawn zine format. Okay? And yet I've altered the panels in order for it to be a one-page story. So we can defy, and yet the thing folds out as a traditional thing. I just reoriented it for the one page, whereas these are pretty much much more uniform. So none of that really matters because I'm going to scan it and stick it in there and do whatever I want with it. Have I ever done a comic digitally? Oh yeah, I drew one like last week. Digital only. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I drew one last week, if not the week before. So what, in trying to draw it from this point here forward, and then I'm going to take this piece at the end, right? I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to tail it on to the end there. And where it starts here, okay, has to connect to the very end there. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a little bit tricky. It might be easier to actually take a piece of paper and separate it in half so that I can lay it out lengthwise and then draw it like that and then stitch it together. But the idea for this one-page story today is that it's one continuous drawing of a whole bunch of different things going on across a larger space that will then be divided up into those 8 panels. And one of the fun things that we can do with our panels is that if we've got somebody, who's leaning across and who's, he's got somebody behind them and he's grabbing them and so on and so forth, and this action has them fall across a panel, well, we can edit out the panel division and yet still put a line in there to tell the reader that there's a break in time, and yet here these guys are falling across this space into the next one. And we can do that with each time. So if here's a foot and this guy's flying this way, well, we remove this part of that black line. So again, we've got the same course of action as characters fall through the composition. So that's my intention with today's page. And I intend on drawing this with this pen, and then I'm going to scan it and color it that way. If you want, I can see. So my intention for today initially was to take this scanned collage and just draw digitally on top of that, and I will still do that. I can either do it and just show it for tomorrow, or I will maybe do it on Monday that way. Either way is fine for me. Let me see if I can find a just solely drawn digital page. Here's one. Here's about some birds. And I'll pull this up on the screen. So this page is just, it's 3 ladies arguing over a treehouse. And so the 3 very bird-like ladies are, chipping at each other as, they're, oh dear, I think we can all be adults about this. As do I, dear. And so if you want to put voices to each of those characters, ideally they have their own little unique intonations. But the one thing they keep saying over and over again is dear. And sometimes we use a piece of language like an affectation, like dear, as in dear Susan, right? But then, I really don't like that, dear. Then it becomes a word of condemnation. It's a weaponized word. And so that's me playing with the word dear. And then what do you say to that? Perhaps we just bid on it, dears. Oh my, what do you say to that? I've got lots of money. And then the third one says, well, we could fight for it. I've got a black belt in judo. Just nonsense. It's just following the dialogue of these 3 characters drawn. But I drew this digitally and colored it just the same, of 3 ladies arguing over a birdhouse, right? So it's whatever material, whatever medium, whatever approach that we're using, just explore it, just play with it and have fun. A story doesn't have to be all of these panels and all of these actions. The story can be a single image, a static image, and yet the story, the conveyance of the story, because we're using visual and textual aspects in fusion together as our means of storytelling, you can lean a little more one way or the other. Like if this is your visual, this is your textual, the two of them lattice together is your storytelling technique. But maybe there's a lot more visual and a lot less words in this one. Maybe this one is one image with a lot of type, or with a lot of text where people are talking, so it's a lot of heavy dialogue. Both of these, whatever the combination of these two things together that you tend to utilize in whatever composition you're working on, if you allow yourself to lean into it, it's going to be very different from the thing you just did. If you've got, let's say you have a submarine story, and the only thing in the submarine story is you do these different shots of, the ocean, then you see the little sub in this dark water around it, as a little silhouetted image, and then you see the crew inside with these faces, these physical expressions of apprehension. And, but underneath these drawings, up until this point, it just says, boing, 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 underneath these images. And you cut to another shot of, let's say, the cook in the submarine's kitchen going, and he's got the traditional cigarette hanging out of the mouth as he's looking. And then it shows a couple of guys in a bunk. And each time underneath it says, boing, boing. And then you draw somebody go, burp, for a panel. They accidentally burped. And then the next panel has, the guys around them go, shh, like this. And then the final panel is the sub blowing up. There's a lot of story that's conveyed in that with two sounds, boing, or three sounds, boing, burp, shh, boom. I guess that's four. But the visual elements of that submarine story, and I've never drawn this, I just came up with it, but the visual elements of that submarine story narrate a whole bunch of things. You've put the sub in the bottom of the ocean in this dark water, in this context, so we give this sort of feeling of isolation and immersion and the threat of the sea around them. You look at the characters and their apprehensive faces and shh, everybody keep it down. This sort of look of everybody's quiet, nobody's talking, and they all are looking up and boing, boing, or ding, ding, whatever sound you want to use. So something's happening. We're not entirely sure yet what it is, but when the one guy goes like this accidentally, and the other person goes shh beside him, and then the result of that is explosion in the water, and you haven't clearly said the submarine exploded, but the reader can intimate that sort of idea for themselves. But what we're not seeing anymore, because that's the conclusion of this little piece of story that we're giving them, is that accidental burping and shushing stopped everything that was happening up to that point. So you're not doing all kinds of talking and people saying, everybody keep it down, the enemy is up above us trying to find our location. We're not doing all of that. That you don't need so much vocal introspection from characters. Sometimes it's just too much. Sometimes that's bad writing. If you can show something, because this form of storytelling of pictures and words together is a visual medium, if you can show it, show it. And if it would help you, like I always use this example. If you have a person standing in front of the fridge, okay, they've got the fridge door open, they got their head stuck inside it, so they're clearly looking inside the fridge. You don't have to say, I'm looking in the fridge on that panel. You can simply say, there's nothing in here I want to eat. You've given the visual image of them with their head stuck in the fridge looking inside, but by adding the text that says, there's nothing in here that I want to eat, you've added an extra layer to your story. And it works with the visual layer that you've already put down. right? Or, if you put the person with their head in the fridge and it says, I can never find the pickles. Well, now you've not only just said that the person's in there looking for pickles, but every time they go to the refrigerator, they can't find them. So there's an even additional layer to story. And a pattern formed of the character never being able to find pickles when he looks in the fridge, so he shoves his head in all the way to see if that somehow makes it more likely that he'll find them. If you had the same image without any text, just with a person with their head stuck in the fridge, it's not as direct for the reader. They have to try to figure out, why is this person head stuck in the fridge? Are they, is this something bad? Are they trying to hurt themselves, or are they stuck? There's not enough there for the reader, without the reader themselves taking a flight of fancy and trying to understand what it is that you're trying to say. And so if you can make it just a tiny bit more clear. Now, if you have, there's never anything in the fridge when I look in there, and I can't find the pickles whenever I want to find them, and all you have is a drawing of the fridge, well, you're counting on the person wanting to read all of that information and get the same emotional connection from a closed refrigerator. It doesn't quite work the same, right? You've leaned a little too far to the textual aspect, just like not having any text is leaning way too far into the visual aspect. Jasper says, Runciman, this is all very creative advice. Thank you. Well, thank you. Marsh says, I kind of have an idea for this fridge comic now. Oh boy. What have I done? Yeah, well, that's the thing. An idea is just an idea, and whatever idea I might suggest is not the same thing as you do with it. Even if you did verbatim what I just described of having a person with their head, looking in a fridge, whether or not you have the door wide open and their arm holding the side of the fridge or not makes it unique in your drawing. Or whether they're, the fridge is just wide open and their hands are looking into the, or being inserted into the fridge as well as their head. So you get the idea that they're moving stuff around and looking in there. Whatever you draw is going to be the same as a person beside you. The challenge with when you go to live drawing classes and here's the model with this pose and everybody is sitting there and drawing the model with this pose, it's a great way to study. It is. It's a great way to understand the working from a model and the folds of fabric and the form of the model. But I always tend to add things to it. I just do. Even if it's just a couple of quick lines for a horizon and a random shape of a tree kicking up the side. I don't know why. I'm clearly hyper and I get bored very quickly, and because I tend to work quickly, I always just need to sort of take one more swipe of a mark and try to contextualize, why is this random person standing here? So even in sketch illustrations or static model drawing, I'm still trying to find a story in it. Why is this person doing this? Are they looking up? Is there a thought bubble coming out of their head? I tend to be a little ridiculous that way. And it used to be something where I'd have, my model drawing classes when I was in high school, and the teacher would say, Runciman, what are you doing? All the time. And thought bubble, okay, all right. Let's look at these folds a little more, and I'm just trying to find vehicles, find means to get that story across, as opposed to focusing too heavily on just this representation of folds of fabric on a figure. So I wasn't a very good student in that regard, but sometimes you gotta fly your own way. I wouldn't be a good messenger pigeon. I'm more of a crow. Bird reference for all you crazy kids out there. Less of a dove and more of a crow. Anyways. So I'm just drawing this one character jumping another one. There's our first panel. And so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to continue on these actions of characters engaging with one another physically. And then I'll decide, what are we going to do with this background? Is it going to be some kind of, a fight in a Joseon restaurant? I don't know. But what I'm trying to do is just explore these characters and the engagements and interactions of the characters, because one of the things that we can do is we don't always have to have people talking in a story, right? You can have these guys scrapping, and all the text says, "This is the greatest brouhaha I've ever seen," and it's people jumping over tables at each other, and other people just running from breaking glass, so these different actions that you have happening in the course of the story. You can, like we just exampled with the refrigerator thing, take these drawings, we set them into a context, this big brouhaha in a Joseon era, Korean restaurant, and even though our characters don't look like they're from it, it's our stylized thing. We can draw it however we want. We don't have to draw people in traditional garbs or stuff. If we do, it might enhance the story. If we don't, it might change it to be a different way. Maybe even make it a little more universal. But we can choose the different settings from whatever way that we want to, because it's our drawing. Do whatever you want to. But taking the text and moving it in a slightly different direction or narrative style than you might be doing with your visual elements enables you to add just a little bit more sophistication to it. I had a conversation with somebody the other day that was, I'm going to learn how to do comics. And the first thing they bought was Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. And what do you think of this? This is the best book to learn comics from? And I told them to put it down. I know some of you will say, "Oh, I used that. It was great for me." You might have a different mindset than this person did. People that tend to be able to be a little more academically comprehensive, it's going to be fine for you. But if you tend to be a more hands-on, let's start making some marks and doing some things, I just want to get to the drawing part, I think it's a detriment for people. And so understanding the character of the individual I spoke to, I told him to put it down, because there is so much symbology and there's so much that goes into about language and what communication means. What does this say as opposed to what that says? And when you represent the mark of something, and how many different ways can you draw a kettle? Sometimes that just is overwhelming, and it keeps people from just making some marks on paper. And you'll honestly, in my opinion, dun dun dun, you're going to learn a lot more about storytelling, expressing yourself, making marks and drawing, if you just pick the pen up and start making some mistakes. And you'll figure out that, this doesn't seem to work the same way, or work as well as this. And look at the things that you enjoy. Try to think about what it is that you enjoy about those things, and how can you try to insert the aspect of the things that you enjoy into what you're doing. I think that is a far more proactive way for a lot of people learning to write and draw storytelling than giving you all kinds of symbolic language meaning and things like that. Just trying to teach people to convey the idea, to explore incorporating the visual and the textual, to play with the textual. You want to do this page, you want to do this story entirely in prose? Do it. You want to do this, take the greatest poetic license you ever have in your life and to write and draw a story that sounds like Jim Morrison lyrics? Do it. There's the ways that we explore and discover storytelling along the way is what informs us moving into new pieces and in forward direction. So, but to sit down and overanalyze things just out of the gate, you're not going to start drawing right away, because you've got to get through this gigantic tome of, academic understanding of how to make comics. And there's tons of good stuff in there. But start doing it first, and then look at it, and it might help to advance what you're doing. But if a person just out of nowhere wants to write and draw stories, and the first thing they do is pick up one of the most complicated books on writing and drawing stories, how's that going to help? Marsh says, put that Scott McCloud book down, that's dangerous. I smacked his hand. No, I didn't. I just said, he said, well, what's the best way for me to go about drawing comics? And I just put that book down. Put that book down, pick that pen up. That's what I said to him. Now, mind you, we were at a drawing event, and I've been watching hesitation from him for a few moments because he was overthinking from the few pages he'd already read. So it's not to say that the next person who might have more of academic comprehensive leaning might not get great swaths of things out of Scott McCloud's book, because it would have taken them however long before they started picking up the pencil after they consumed the book. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's an individual's process. I just made a call on the individual in question. So, and the next day they told me that, hey, thanks for telling me that. You were right. Oh, okay. Well, I don't need to be right or wrong. It's just, I just want to help. But the absolutes don't work, folks. There's no such thing to say that this is the only way to do something, and if you don't do it this way, it's the wrong way. We're all different. We're all different people, and we're all going to have different approaches to stuff, and that's completely fine. So the first two characters in this drawing are moving this way. The next character I'm having moving against them to get this sort of ebb and flow of energy happening. So I've pushed this line up, and I'm pushing that line down. If that makes any sense to you guys. And the reason that I'm doing that is to try to disorient the action, right? Because this isn't a lovely choreographed fight where everybody's dancing in the same direction. I want this sort of to be a chaotic activity, chaotic action of people just crashing and smashing and moving in different directions. And this is to try to incorporate a story that has the madness of battle, I guess, going on. So this is why the decision to have him face the other direction. And this is my bad lighting that I'm doing on all the characters, just to get the idea that the lighting is up above. Just to try to have something that carries across, right? Now what I also haven't done is measured out where the actual bottom of this is, so I'm just assuming it's right here. I could measure it. That might be a really smart idea. I'm sure that we all know people that when they're trying to convey stories, and these people may in fact also be ourselves, but when they're trying to figure out how to convey stories, for a while there, you're looking at, how do I do this so it looks super awesome right out the gate? Or how do I do this so that, it does all the things it's supposed to do and I do it the correct way, or whatever these ideas or assumptions that we have about sharing our storytelling. Let it go. just the first when you look at the Elmwood series, the first half of that series is, I'd redo every one of those books now. Well, I'd redo the entire thing, but specifically the first half of that series, I'd say, I gotta, I've learned enough now that I'd go back and completely change how I approach these entirely, because I was, not understanding a certain directions. Jasper says, Runsman, did you get my pic? I sent you a book with my cat. Oh, no, I haven't looked at my email yet today. That's fantastic. I'll be like, wow, Jasper has feline appearances. Oh, that's her cat? I was worried. So here's our next character, and rather than figuring out where the foot goes, or the bottom of the leg here goes, I'm just going to keep going. See, there's a mistake. Who cares? Again, if I sit down and overly focus on those, are these perfect lines? We don't have time for perfect lines right now. We're storytelling. I've heard some interesting pieces of advice from people over the years, and that is what I really I'm not going to say who it was, because the person's a bit of a jerk, but somebody showed them their work, and I was privy to this, and I knew the person showing the work, and they had these great ideas about what was going to happen, and unfortunately it didn't. He looked at the work and he said, "Let me ask you a question. Are you drawing fancy pictures, or are you trying to tell a story?" And while I don't necessarily agree with how he told this person this, it's a really important point. You know, we're trying to tell a story and making comics. If you're not conveying a story, you're just drawing pretty pictures and calling them comics. So I'm obviously a fan of your approach, but just curious, have you ever had anyone criticize your approach to comics? Well, that's very nice of you, Marsh. But on the back of my book, it says heterodox visual storytelling. And that's a quote from Mr. Jim Shooter. Orthodox means you follow the rules. Unorthodox means you don't follow the rules. Heterodox means you're kind of making up your own rules, or making up new rules, or you're doing things that lie outside of the rules. And while it can be seen as a very cool compliment, and that's how I take it, but at the same time, it is saying that I'm not following some rules. Is that a bad thing to tell people that might say, "Hey, how do I draw?" And I go, "Oh, let me tell you the wrong way," you know. Sometimes it's about shaking it up. Sometimes it's about defying the norm, the status quo of this is the traditional way we tell comics, and we got to stay that way. The fact I'm doing this in a landscape format would, other people like, dude, it's got to be in the portrait format, and it's got to be on this kind of paper, and it's got to be with this sort of an action. And I'm like, no, it really doesn't. And your story doesn't have to have this climactic aspect to it. It doesn't have to have, you're not trying to use this many panels to tell the entirety of the Napoleonic Wars. This can just be about, an octopus saying, "Have you tried using bubbles instead of dabs, Surratt?" And that's it. That's the whole point. 1 minute conversation. So, yeah, that's a pretty good criticism that can be evaluated in two separate ways. I tend to try to look for it as the positive aspect, and I'm really, I'm quite appreciative but that is him looking at the work and making an assessment. If somebody else looks at the work and says you're doing this wrong, then he and I are going to have a different kind of conversation, because his aesthetic interpretation of me doing it wrong is according to their perspective. But if I'm only focused on other people's perspectives, I'm not going to have as much fun. But no, if you're doing this wrong, and you're doing that wrong, and you're doing that wrong, and that's how you're evaluating somebody else's work, maybe don't. When people say, "What do you think of what I'm working on?" First thing I always say, "That's fantastic you did this," because in all honesty, that's my first assessment. I love it. You've expressed yourself. And then my second thing is, well, I see what you're doing here. Have you tried to move the angle, to move the action from the left to the right? Because when you start off with everybody running the opposite direction, well, first off is that your first thing you're doing is having the line of sight of the characters. Because we follow eyes, it's a human trait. Immediately we step into the panel, and then the panel forces us right back off the page again. If we're looking at the character's eyes, you're like, where are they going? It's just a thing we do. So, that's not necessarily criticizing the work. It's just trying to say, hey, maybe consider this part. Think about we want to move the things this way. We want to move things until we want to move them that way. Until we want to move them that way. But if the first thing we do is kick you back off again, it's not going to help. I've had somebody tell me this. Somebody told me that every comic page you can divide up like this. All right? And then the first thing is if you got two people talking and they're walking this way towards something. Okay? And they're going that way, and this one's got their dialogue, and this one's got their dialogue, and that's the place where we're going. And then you can have the first one say to the second one, apples, and the second one, and then we make this larger and off panel more for this first face as we focus more on the second one, and they look at him and they say oranges. And then the two of them, stop and look at each other. What? And then they continue on their merry way, but they have to be this far across the page now, and they say, it's just fruit. And they continue, and they're at the place. And every comic page should be those types of actions. And then I looked at the person's work, and a lot of their pages have this shape. They just do. Right? So when you take a formulaic approach, and if that works, and if that settles for you, and that's fine, that's good. But don't tell other people that's the only way it works. That works for them. And it works, and they do nice work. But you can't tell other people, this is the way to do it, and this is what works. What they mean is, this is what works for me. So criticism's a hard and challenging thing. I think that, we all have our own different associations. We have our own different ways of seeing things and appreciating things. I'm not a fan of 90s comics. A lot of that stuff that came out of Image in the early 90s, I don't like it. And there's some of it that I do, but a lot of it I don't. And, when people, that's when comics were their best. What have you read since then is usually my first question, because there's a lot of things that have been done by different people in different styles and different languages and different approaches and different topics. And but Spawn was the best comic. That's a hard statement to make. That's a hard criticism to make, because that equates to that's the only comic, and it dismisses an awful lot of work by an awful lot of people that has an awful lot of merit. I think that awards programs are challenging, because how do you compare two very dissimilar things and say, well, this one's got the number one choice for this year, is it? I don't think everybody's going to agree with it. There's no such thing as omniscience or universality with creative expression. Somebody's going to like it. Radiohead. Somebody else is going to like Black Sabbath. It's just what it is. But the criticism is a tough thing if it's trying to keep things in a uniform way. Like if you're trying to draw for mainstream sequential books, like, well, let's use the fetishistic fascist addresses as a bat. If you want to draw Batman books, then you need to understand the lay of the land, and understand that if you want to draw a Batman book in the style of Persepolis, which is a comic that people might want to look up, you're not going to sell that book to Batman fans. And at the end of the day, that corporate culture wants you to sell their book and maintain the status quo of their customer base and make them more. But it's not going to happen if you draw it like Persepolis. Honestly, a couple of the larger companies are missing this point completely and suffering from it. And that's a hard lesson to get across. You want to experiment, try different things, and approach stuff in various ways. but understand the nature of the thing, right? Like they tried to make a live action Adventures of Little Nemo in Slumberland in the last few years, and they turned the side character of Pip into an action hero played by Jason Momoa. And I'm like, did you even look at the source material? He's an obese, troublemaking, lazy guy, and you got Jason Momoa. Like that, there's a reason that most people don't realize that film even exists, and it was such a flop. Know the nature of a thing. So in that context, I would say, critically, that there's a reason it didn't work. But if you're going to adapt a thing, try to adapt the thing. And if you're going to make a new thing inspired by that other thing, then do so and just allow it to be that. Marsh says, I love 90s comics, but I can totally see why people don't. They definitely are lacking in a lot of elements that make a comic great. And yet there are great things about them. There are really fun and interesting new ground being covered by some of them. And like Jim Valentino is a fantastic storyteller. But I think Jim Valentino wanted to do a Batman book. So he's done his type of Batman called Shadowhawk. Or Daredevil or whoever, but it's based on the Daredevil type, and that's great. But I also watched Jim Valentino for years do Guardians of the Galaxy and a lot of really great work over a prolonged career, and I appreciate that stuff more. But as far as storytelling goes, fantastic storyteller. It just, the subject matter doesn't work for me in that case. Somebody said Spawn, Todd McFarlane's the greatest the artist, the guy who drew Spawn. I'm like, I think you're talking about Greg Capullo, because when you look at Greg Capullo's work on Spawn, it's just really great storytelling, and much better than, in its overall approach and aesthetic polish, than McFarlane. Just is, but that's based on my aesthetic appreciation. So when it comes to 90s comics, it's a challenging thing. Okay, so I've got two different scenes. Now, when I color this, I want to have a way to, definitively make you understand that this person is closer and this person is closer than these guys. And so one of the ways that we can do that is through color, right? We can have more bright, opaque values in these characters and a more muted tone in those characters in order to suggest that this is closer to us, or our eye is more drawn towards them than these ones. And so I can put them contextually in the same environment. Another way to do that is to draw in relatable scale, objects throughout both those compositions. Like if I have a chair tipping across here that's much larger than a smaller chair that's being thrown in the background of this one, people will understand relationships of space. But I'm just still carrying on with the drawing of all these different action moments that I'm now going to have to move across this gatefold image. So it's kind of fun. It's a kind of fun, different aesthetic on how to, how to tell a continual story. But I'll keep going on this. Listen, it's been about an hour and a half, and I feel like we've jibber jabbered about a lot of stuff. For anybody that might have joined late, I'm going to put a post up that says, if you have picked up a copy of the book. Where have I put the book? The book. If you've picked up a copy of One Page Story Extravaganza, and you take a picture, just hold the book up. You don't have to be in the picture. You can have your cat with the book in the picture. But if you just take a shot of the book and send me a DM with that and your address, and even if you want to put something, like what I'll do. I'm gonna do a drawing, and I'm gonna send some of these little mini zines to people that have picked up the book in appreciation for people having purchased this from Amazon. So if you send me a DM with the book up in the air and your address, and you can even say the subject for a picture, like toaster, whatever, and I'll just do a quick little illustration of some kind in whatever medium I feel like in the moment. I'm going to tell you that right now, and I'll be mailing those things out to people to say thank you, because I really appreciate the reviews and the purchases and the support, and I'm working as fast as I can on the next 2 books coming out. So I can't thank people enough. So I'll be putting that announcement up on Facebook and Instagram and Patreon later today or tomorrow. So I just thought I'd tell whoever's in the stream or whoever's watching this video at this point, just to bring that up. I've already got a couple in. I appreciate it. And I know that some people, I need addresses, is what I need to mail things to people. If you're not comfortable with that, I don't know how else to do it. To send you a physical thing without being able to send it the physical thing from one person to another person. Mind powers, that's how I'll do it. I don't know. Hi, Jim, welcome aboard. I'm looking spiffy. I wore pants today. Long pants, not short pants. That's not true. I'm wearing shorts. So I hope that some of the ideas we talked about today on creativity in general, or on process and how to look at movement on the zine page and exploring some of the different ways that we can come at it again for the next of these little mini zines that I'm going to be mailing to people. I hope that this has been of benefit for folks, and that if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, whether it's a sentence or a few words or an idea or just whatever mad notion that comes by you, please feel free to put it in the comments here for the video, or Instagram, Facebook, Patreon. And if you sign up for the Patreon, which is $3, I think, then I show all the original art there as well, and all of these zines that I'm doing, I've put up on Patreon so that you can print them out and fold up your own copy and have all of them. I don't care. Do I have the community tab? Can you post it there? Your picture and your address you want to put on the community tab? I don't know if you want to put your address there for everybody, Marsh. That's why I've sort of said DMs. It's because your address is, and if you put it in a community tab, everybody gets to see it, and so people might, because people are weird, right? And I'm not going to keep all these addresses on file. It's literally just a case of sending something out to people in appreciation. So, Jasper says I've got to include my address. Sorry, I'll send it to you now. Hey, super cool. Yeah, so I've got a couple in already, and so we are already working on getting something set to put out a mailing for next week. So if you say a subject matter like toaster or a horse, or I don't know, can you draw me an ink jar? I looked at an ink jar. That's where that idea came from. A can of cola. Your announcement. Oh yeah, my announcement will be in the community tab as well, Marsh. Yeah. For all the people that just watch here on Facebook on the streams. Thank you though, Marsh. I appreciate that. I forgot to mention that, and you're right. So I'll be having it in all these different places, the announcement, and Jasper's already mailed it. Look at that. But I can't appreciate enough people picking up the book. I'm so thankful for that, and that's why I'm really working hard on getting number 2 done, as well as the third one that's just falling together. But I'm focusing on number 2, and every time I see something for 3, I just throw it in that file. So that'll come together fairly quick when we get going. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun trying all these different things. I will be doing another page this weekend where I will be taking this, I'm going to switch, this image that I scanned of the collaged page, and I will be drawing a comic on this, a little zine on this digitally, and printing that out for inclusion in all the digital comics. So it turns out I'm going to do 6 this week. You know, I thought it was only going to be 5. That's just how it goes. But I'm going to keep playing with this one, with all of these characters crashing and smashing and bopping about, and I'll get this one done and posted up. And yeah, I've been having a ball doing this with all these different mediums. But if there's ever anything that people would like to see, like, hey, Runtsman, I should try drawing in pencil crayon, then just let me know, and we'll try to incorporate that in. I think the only medium that I've drawn in and I look at it and go, I don't know, is got to be crayon, because it's so granular. You know, that might be the only medium that I don't go back and revisit on a regular basis. If it was more like a wax and caustic approach to it, but I don't have the capacity for heating up and diddly doing with wax like that. So, but anything else, if you draw on this thing, draw it this way, as in material or medium wise, right? Then feel free to put that in the comments and on any of the videos and let me know. Okay, that's about it for me for today. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and I will be back on Monday, I believe, in the morning. If I can't do a stream Monday morning, because I'm teaching in the afternoon, I'm teaching grade 3s. We're talking about storytelling with 3s, 4s, 5s, and it's going to be a very different kind of a lesson. But it's all good. It's all about encouraging creativity with people for me. But again, thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate it very much, and I hope you have a great day. Go create something. Bye for now.